War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Nermeen Sheikh.
We turn now to Israel, where Secretary of State John Kerry has just concluded his third visit to the region in less than 3 weeks. His trip was intended to renew negotiations between Israel and the Palestinians, which have been stalled for more than 4 years. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Kerry both claimed progress had been made toward possible peace talks. To that end, Kerry pledged Tuesday to work with Israeli and Palestinian leaders to boost economic growth in the occupied West Bank.
We agreed among us, President Abbas, Prime Minister Netanyahu, and ourselves, that we are going to engage in new efforts, very specific efforts, to promote economic development and to remove some of the bottlenecks and barriers that exist with respect to commerce in the West Bank.
On Monday, while Secretary of State Kerry was visiting Israel, Israeli soldiers shot a Palestinian photographer in the face with a rubber-coated metal bullet in the Aida refugee camp in the West Bank city of Bethlehem. Mohammed Walid Al-Azza was shot during clashes that took place between Israeli soldiers invading the camp and local youths who were hurling stones at them. Another journalist, Israeli journalist Amira has suffered a torrent of hate mail and calls for her prosecution after she wrote an article defending the rights of Palestinians to resist violent occupation. In the article, Amira defends the throwing of stones by Palestinian youth at Israeli soldiers, calling it, quote, the birthright and duty of anyone subject to foreign rule, unquote. Amira says Israelis remain in denial about, quote, how much violence is used on a daily basis against Palestinians. They don't like to be told that someone has the right to resist their violence, she wrote. Well, to talk more about the situation is the journalist herself. Amira joins us now, Haaretz correspondent for the occupied Palestinian territories, the only Jewish Israeli journalist to have spent almost 20 years living in and reporting from Gaza and the West Bank. It's great to have you with us here in New York, Amira. Talk about what this article said. You wrote it for Haaretz?
That's right. It was published last week, and I think it's not the first time that I write that Palestinians have the right to resist like any other group which is suffering the oppression or repression. And I wrote several things. Maybe the main thing was that the Israeli occupation is the source of violence. I mean, this is violence. That the Israeli policies are institutionalized violence. Even when there is no physical force used, it is always violence. And then I was posing the question, how come that Palestinian schools do not teach kids to resist, or forms of resistance? And I also said something about the restrictions that there are on forms of resistance. Like I said, of course, a distinction between an armed person and a civilian, or a child and a person with uniform. I made this distinction, but I didn't think it. I mean, it's not that we have always to defend and to explain why this resistance has to be so or so or so. The main thing to concentrate on is the violence of the ruler and the domination.
Amira, as you point out, you've made the same points in other articles you've written, but the criticism of this piece in particular was quite widespread. And I want to turn to one of the critics of your article. This is Adva Biton, the mother of 3-year-old Adele. Adele, the 3-year-old, was critically injured in a stone-throwing incident last month. And the mother wrote in the Hebrew daily Ma'arev, quote, I agree with you that everyone deserves their freedom, Arab and Jew alike. I agree with you that we all ought to aspire to liberty, but there isn't a person on earth who will achieve freedom and liberty by means of an instrument of death. There's no reason on earth that Adele, my 3-year-old daughter, should have to lie in the intensive care unit now, connected to tubes and fighting for her life, and there's no reason, Amira, for you to encourage that. Can you respond to this?
What happened to her daughter?
She visited friends or family in one of the settlements in the West Bank, and while they were driving back home, some kids from a village are said to have thrown stones, and one hit her. She made the turn, and she bumped into a truck, and they were wounded. Yes. I don't think I have to respond to this. It's her pain, and I don't like people could come and bring the stories of hundreds of Palestinian children who are killed and wounded by Israeli by Israeli bullets and by Israeli tear gas and I don't know whatever. I'm against this symmetry, and I think that I explained very well in my article the differences and the distinction that one has to take. But the fact is that Israel is, I mean, that we maintain our hegemony with the use of almost unlimited power. I mean, with unlimited institutional power against the Palestinians. And Palestinians have tried many ways, diplomatic ways and other ways, to resist this Israeli domination, and it has not succeeded. Stone throwing is a sort of a message, and the Israelis don't listen to it. 25 years ago, with the first Intifada, Israelis did listen to this message. I mean, they did understand that this is a message of it's not in order to kill, it's not in order to hit somebody, but it's in order to tell you are unwelcome visitors in our midst.
Okay, so what accounts for the change? Why were Israelis more amenable or open to understanding stone throwing 25 years ago during the first Intifada? What about now?
The main, you could say, achievement of the Oslo process, that the benefits of the occupation have been really entrenched and reached larger segments of the Israeli society.
By which you mean profits? In what sense?
Economical profits. It is occupation deluxe. We have the benefits of the occupation. We don't have the responsibility of taking care of the population. We have delegates who actually put the people under control. I mean, that's the Palestinian police, Palestinian security agencies. So it is not really the onus of occupation is not felt as it was felt maybe 25 years ago, when so many Israeli soldiers were amidst Palestinians in the cities, and when Israel had to take some kind of care about health and cleaning the streets and water distribution. Now all the responsibility is on the Palestinians and on the PA. And then, of course, you grew. I mean, you talk about drones. I mean, I think that the Israeli industry of arms has developed very much in the past 25 years. And this form of arms that is that fits into a world of containment, into policies of containment, not the conventional wars, but the wars which are meant to quell social unrest. And we fit into this.
Amira, the significance of Secretary of State John Kerry going to Israel and what you believe the role of the U.S. should be right now.
I think that the role of the U.S. is, I mean, they want to keep to maintain the status quo, that the Palestinians keep quiet and keep this fake process of endless negotiation. So the negotiation becomes an end to itself, and not a means to reach their independence. So they again will try to extract from Israel some promises for gestures, and I've been hearing this for 20 years. Economical progress, which is really an impossible thing. It's you cannot both maintain Israeli control over 60% of the West Bank and continue to divide Gaza from the West Bank and continue to forbid Gazans from exporting their products and have economical progress. I mean, Kerry will soon see that that he has failed just as others before. But I don't think it's failure, because he wants, I mean, the policy, the U.S. policy is to maintain, to keep the status quo going. I mean, this kind.
You also suggest in the article that the Palestinian Authority is interested in maintaining the status quo. Could you explain why?
It has become, maybe it's not interested as it has become a second nature of the Palestinian Authority. Some for personal reasons, because, you know, there is a strata that also benefits from this status quo, and because they don't see any any near real solution, or they don't. There is not a feeling that we near a fair solution. So at least they can maintain the status quo, which benefits stratas. And not only benefits in the bad sense of the word. I mean, I see many people who are tired of fighting, so they want to keep to have these several years to be able to care for their families, to send their children to better education, to travel in the world or something. So it's a very normal aspirations for the time being, because there is a sense that politically nothing is no fair solution is near. And there is also, it became also a second nature of the PA to think only about diplomatic means, and not means which involve the people.
Amira, we just have 20 seconds, but you were awarded here in 2009 by the International Women's Media Foundation for your courage, for your lifetime achievement. CNN's Christiane Amanpour introduced you, describing you as one of the great truth seekers of them all. You've been in the occupied territories for 20 years, the only Israeli Jewish reporter to live there. Do you think the pain will end?
Not in my lifetime.
You're the daughter of a Holocaust survivor. You wrote a book about your mother.
Essays, yeah.
Holocaust often used to justify what's happening to the Palestinians.
Look, our terrible tragedy is that we have two catastrophes, human catastrophes, clashing with each other, and each has its own pains and layers of pain which do not vanish, even when the only thing, and this is where I can quote my father, who is a survivor.
We have 5 seconds.
The difference is with the Palestinians, it continues and continues and continues.
Thanks so much for watching this report from Democracy Now!, your daily independent global news hour. We don't accept advertising or corporate funding, but rather rely on donations from viewers like you. Please make your contribution by visiting democracynow.org. We need your support today to keep bringing you this hard-hitting, in-depth reporting.